Hi, science learners. Today we are working on how do scientists investigate. And today I'm going to show you how you make your own thermometer, which is cool because we've been talking about science tools and we're going to learn a little bit more about science tools this week. We know we're successful if we can make a thermometer. It's a little tricky, but not too bad. We can update your science journal, create a page, and update your table of contents for this experiment. And then we're going to test your thermometers using hot water and cold water. Now, if you're at home and you're like, oh, Miss Hudson, I don't have that stuff. It's okay. Like I said, you can watch the video here. We can do it together and fill out the pages. No fuss, no muss. Okay. So don't feel stressful. And once again, I'm going to remind you of your safety, which is more important to me than any science experiment ever. So if you are handling hot water or cold water or anything sharp, it doesn't need to be done. Get a parent to help you. You should not be doing this, winging it on your own, okay? So if you don't have anybody at home to help you or you're working this by yourself, just watch the video and do it with me. If you were here, and I'm hoping to see you guys next week, if you're here, then of course Miss Hudson would loan my stuff and I'd be keeping an eye on you so you could do it. And we might double back and try it again if we have time. But I really wanted to move on to this one today. So if you're at home and you don't have it, just watch for me. Okay, your safety is more important. Always, always, and forever. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to do something weird. I usually start off by having you set up your journal page and then do the experiment. First, we're going to build journal page experiment, okay, which is what I have in our tips for success. So starting out, you're going to need a jar or a container that can be with a lid, okay? And you're going to need a straw. But start out with the container. At school, I use these. These are plastic, little bitty plastic containers. Nice hard plastic. And then they have lids that snap on. And what I've done is I have punched a small hole. You see it? Punched a small hole in the top. Now, I don't have anything like that at home. You can use a mason jar. A lot of people have those. They make bigger ones, which is fine. And the cool thing about a mason jar is it's got a lid, like a removable, replaceable lid. And you can get a hole in that. Now, Miss Hudson, be careful. When I punched the lid, I almost lost a finger here at school because I didn't have the right tools. And I thought, well, I can do it real quick. That should not be you. And please do not get grandma, mom's, auntie's jar full of delicious canned vegetables. Dump the vegetables out just to get the jar. Okay, it can be a jar made of glass. It doesn't matter as long as it's got a sealable lid. And you can have a hole in it or it can be plastic. And I've got two of the ones that I use with students at school. All right. Of course, you're going to need a straw for every thermometer. Now, I'm going to show you how to make, I'm going to make 2 or 3, but you really only need 1. You're going to need a little bit of water that you add food coloring to. Food coloring. You just need a couple drops and some water that you add food coloring to make the thermometer. And last but not least, you're going to need some modeling clay. And I've got the modeling clay right here that I'm going to use for mine. All of this stuff, if you don't have it at home, like I said, please don't stress your parents out or we're going to have to stop doing experiments like this. Because I know some folks are unhappy. They're like, I have to go to the store every day for science. No, you don't have to go to the store every day for science, okay? If you don't have it at home, just watch the video, please. All right. So we start out with our container. And what you're going to do is open the lid on the container or the lid on the jar. And you're going to use that water that you've added the food coloring to. And you're going to fill it about 1/3 of the way up. Like so. About 1/3 of the way up. Miss Hudson, how much is 1/3? Well, it depends on your container, doesn't it? Okay. Obviously, this is much bigger. So I'm going to add a little bit more to this one. You should have enough in there, but you should not fill it all the way up. Okay. Then you're going to take the lid, you're going to put the lid back on. So I'm going to take my jar and my lid, and I'm going to put the lid back on. See? All right. Now here comes the tricky part. you're going to take your straw and you're going to put it in through the hole in the top. You're like, Miss Hudson, what's tricky about that? Looks like it's Kool-Aid beverage. Don't drink it. You're going to take your clay and you're going to seal around the straw with the clay. It's got to be airtight around this. Don't pinch off the straw. It's got to be able to breathe a little bit. But you got to seal around the top so there's no air escaping out around the straw. And then you got to make sure your straw is not sitting on the bottom. It's got to be in the liquid. It's got to be in the liquid. I don't know if you can see that or not. My graphics aren't that good. The straw is in the liquid. It's not touching the bottom, and it's sealed on top. See what I mean by tricky? All right, so I'm going to do the same thing for my jar. Here's my jar with the straw. I'm going to move this down and see. Will it work? No. Oh. All right, I'm going to lift my straw a little bit so it's in the liquid, but it's not touching the bottom. And then I'm going to seal the area around the straw so it's airtight where I punched my hole. Oh, you can see that so much better. Look, see how it's sitting in the liquid, but it's not touching the bottom? And see how it is sealed around the top of the straw. I'm going to turn it. Sealed around the top of the straw so the air can't get out. All right. Ooh, fly. All right. So we have created a thermometer. And we can test it. So I want you to let your thermometer sit for a minute and adjust to room temperature. And I have this handy graphic that kind of shows you put the straw into the liquid, but don't let it touch the bottom, and use clay to seal the mouth of the jar and hold the straw in place. That's what I meant. So we're going to let it sit for a minute, and you are going to update your table of contents because we need to create a page and update your table of contents so you can show me how it looks when it's sitting at room temperature. Because right now, the liquid inside your thermometer, however it looks, is sitting, and it's going to adjust to room temperature, whatever the temperature of this room is, okay? So while it's doing that, you and I are going to work on our science journal. So go ahead, grab your science journal. If you need to pause me for a second and finish your thermometer, do that. But then come right back because it's real important as scientists that we document what we're doing. So table of contents first. I have the date, 9/8. If today isn't the 9/8, which I think it should be. I think it's day 9/8. Put today's date. I'm going to put 9/8. And then it says, Make a Thermometer is the title. And we are on page 5. Page 5. And then you're going to flip. Take a minute, pause the video, write that in. And then flip with me to page 5. Oh, see my lovely page 5? There it is. At the top of the page, I want you to write the words, Make a Thermometer. Thermo. Thermo is the Latin root word for heat. And meter is a device we use to measure. So we are making a heat measuring device. Doesn't that make sense? I love it. All right. And then I need you to draw 3 examples of your thermometer. And under one, I want you to write room temp. And under the middle one, I want you to write cold. And under the last one, I want you to write hot. Now look, I made them fairly big so I could see what they were doing. And I made them look like there it is. I made them look like my thermometer here that I made in the plastic one. Doesn't that look like? Look. I want you to do your best. So pause the video. This is what's probably going to take you the longest because it took me a couple minutes at least. Pause the video right here. Make a thermometer at the top. Draw me 3 thermometers. Well, I only made one. Well, you're going to draw the behavior, what it does at these temperatures for all three. Okay? Now, I went ahead and put my class claim in evidence, but if you want to wait on that, you can, because we're going to double back and talk about it. So, pause right here, set up your page before you do anything else. All right. If you're back with me, you've already updated your science journal page. You've already created a thermometer. You've already updated your table of contents. Now we're going to test your thermometer in hot and cold water. All right. So if you had one of my little skinny thermometers like this that you made for me in class, I'd give you a small little bowl full of hot or cold water for you to set it in and then watch it. At home, of course, you can always put your water in a bowl or a measuring cup to set your thermometer in. So if you made a mason jar sized thermometer, then this might be the best option, okay? So let's start out with the hot water. So I'm going to put it in here, and I heated up some water in my kettle, and I'm going to pour it in to my, whew, I can see the steam coming off of that. So that's got a good temperature on it. And I'm going to take my thermometer, I'm going to use the mason jar one, and I'm going to set it down in, but not all the way submerged, okay? You're not going to drown it, so don't let go. You're going to have to hold it for a minute, because it takes it a minute to work its magic. Do you see it? What's the liquid inside doing? Oh no. This is super hot water, so what is it doing? It works. Isn't that the coolest thing you ever saw? You made a science tool. You are awesome. See, I lifted it out of the water and it's dropping down. Say, hold still, Miss Hudson. I got too excited. There it goes again. Oh! Think you could do the same thing? That is just about the neatest thing I've seen today, by far, okay? So what did the water do? What did your thermometer do when it was sitting in the hot water? Well, get yourself a colored pencil. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the hot water one that I drew. And I want to color in, and I'm doing mine in red. Not only is it good to see, and mine went all the way to the top. My water must have been super hot. And it went all the way up to the top, didn't it? Neat. Okay, so that's the hot. Let's do the cold. To do the cold, I went ahead and I'm going to use this bowl. And I froze some water in my fridge. And I'm going to pour some cold water into my bowl. And I'm going to do the same thing. These are not going to float, okay? So you got to hold it. I'm going to put it into the water. And I'm going to hold it in there for a minute or two. And I'm going to observe what it does. So while you're doing this, if you're doing this at home, of course, you could always pause me and then hold it in and observe it. Oh, I see. Very cool. I know it's going to be hard to see. But what is it doing? You can barely see the straw in there, but it's pulling it down so that the liquid in the straw is lower than the liquid in around the straw. And every time I raise it out, it goes back to the way it was. So I'll let you play with it. But it should sink lower, right? In the cold. So I'm going to sit mine gently down right here. There we go. And I'm going to use that colored pencil. Again, this time it's behavior in the cold. And what did it do? It was just in the tip. So I'm going to color in its behavior in the cold. Do you see what I mean? It kind of sucked it down lower than it was if it would have been around it. Okay, and then, I can double back because in room temperature, it was just like that. So do you see what I have? I have behavior at room temperature. I have it how it acted in the cold. It kind of sucked it down a little bit. And I'm sorry it was hard to see. Maybe you'll see better on your example, okay? And then, of course, in the hot, it reacted very well, didn't it? To that. I might try it with the jar and see if I can see it a little bit better. But not here on this video, okay? So make sure you have all 3 jars colored in, ready to go for our class claim and our class evidence for tomorrow. I hope you have fun. Experiment with it a little bit. Sometimes that seal at the top is hard to get, but don't stress it. Like I said, this is not high stress here. We are just trying some things out in science, you at home and me right here. See you later, guys. Have fun.